Yes. Hello, 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 and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have passed the halfway mark and we are on to our sixth webinar already today. My name is Adrian Kolf. I am the co-founder and CEO of Matcher, co-founder of Pantala, investor in HR tech. I like to do some public speaking, but most importantly, I am your co-host today. And when I say co-host, because we have a whole team in the background making sure that these webinars run successfully. Now, before I introduce our first speaker, I would love our speaker of today. I would love for you to type in the chat and tell me where you're from and which webinars you've already seen. There's a slight delay in the chat coming in from both YouTube and from LinkedIn. And so that gives me a little bit of time to explain you what we do with Matcher. Because with Matcher, we provide embedded talent teams to fast-growing companies. We work or have worked for companies like TikTok, Booking, Stripe, Revolut, Miro, and Grammarly, but also work for larger companies like Eneco and Accenture, and startups that don't have any recruitment capabilities yet or any sourcing capabilities like Temper and TaxFix. Now, why do companies work with us? Because they pay a fixed fee for the teams that they work with, and we work dedicated as part of your own organization. So, if you need any help with hiring, whether that's on a rolling monthly contract or on a 12-month contract, that is completely up to you. We would love to get in touch with you because we have some amazing sources and recruiters ready to get going right away. Now, and before I introduce our sixth speaker, a good friend of mine, I would love to give the opportunity for our friends of Seekout to showcase a little bit more about what they do, because Seekout has helped make this webinar series a possibility.
Nothing matters more to an organization's success than great people. But searching in a sea of unhelpful data, the right talent can be hard to spot. Seek Out is the platform that thousands of organizations already trust to help them find, hire, grow, and keep great talent, now and into the future. By combining the most relevant public data with your ATS and HRIS systems, Seek Out creates comprehensive profiles for internal and external talent, helping you find diverse, qualified candidates faster, even for those hard-to-fill roles that demand unique skills. But hiring is just the beginning. Seek Out helps organizations truly understand, engage, and develop their employees. The platform empowers your workforce to take charge of their own growth by exploring new skills, connections, and career paths, finding opportunities to move up instead of move on, effectively reducing burnout and turnover. Seek Out also gives your leaders full visibility into employees' skills and capabilities organization-wide, helping you simplify and improve the process of workforce planning. And with built-in analytics and actionable insights always at your fingertips, you can execute every step of that plan with complete confidence. We believe businesses grow when people do. Let us show you how they can grow brilliantly together. Ready to take the first step? Request your demo of Seek Out today.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Seek Out, for making this webinar series a possibility. Guys, so excited to announce our sixth speaker of the webinar series. Please welcome on stage, Mikey Cohen. Yes.
I love that. You are still to date one of like 3 people in the world who call me that, and it doesn't freak me out. So I love that. I love that. Super grateful for our friendship, and some of you may or may not know if you've seen Adrian speak recently. We are accountability partners for each other, so we get to speak every single week. More often than that, more than once a week. So really, really glad to be here, man. Excited to jump in on a brand new presentation created just for this.
Awesome. Yeah, and as always, grateful for you to be here. You've been a long-standing guest at our webinar series. You've been at every single webinar series, and I dare to say that the ones that you've done are one of the highest rated and highest viewed on our different channels. So as always, Mike, happy to have you. Guys, if you have any questions, there is a slight delay in the chat for us to see the questions. Please do ask the questions. Mike, I know Mike, he has multiple screens open, so some of the questions he will be able to answer right away, but expect a tiny delay. And the other questions we'll collect at the end to make sure that we answer all of the questions that you have. If you haven't already, please follow us on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And now, without further ado, Mikey, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to jump right on into this. Oh, hey, sorry, we're back. I was completely rocking out with that. That rocked. Thanks. Also, I want that song, please. That was very cool. Okay, so today we're discussing search strategy, looking beyond the buzzwords, and it goes even deeper than just looking beyond buzzwords, honestly. Here's kind of what we're going to talk about. Here's who's talking to you first, and then we'll talk about that. For those who don't know, that's me. I'm a sourcing subject matter expert. That's kind of my area of expertise in the space. It's also my passion. I am a conference speaker. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do, which I understand is kind of weird, but I absolutely love it. I think I love the idea of training and giving back to the community. And I also love the idea of being the center of attention, which is why I'm an indoor cycling instructor as well. I've been teaching for like 8 years and I absolutely love it. Not the cycling necessarily, but the electronic music and being the center of attention. I do like pushing limits, both personally and professionally. That's me finishing the 2017 New York Marathon and then 2018 running a half Ironman. If you've met me in real life, I know that you're going, whoa, that's cool. I get it. I am a GIF and meme aficionado. I love them. I think they tell really great stories and align human beings through humor. I am sometimes known as Batman. That's real life. And I am a dog lover. That is Blue and that is Honey. And I love them more than 99.9% of all living things on this earth. This is the 0.1%. That is my wife, Crystal. She makes every presentation, makes it into every presentation. She is the only reason I'm here today, personally and professionally. She is my rock and my biggest supporter and the person who's enabled me to do all this fun stuff in the community. So let's rock and roll. So the idea of the agenda for today, I want to work smarter, not harder. And here's the 4 general areas that we're going to be talking in. For the research and bottlenecks, we'll be jumping out of the presentation and doing it live to show you what it'll actually look like versus me just telling you different things that you can try. Cool. Let's rock and roll here. Okay. So I want us to first off stop thinking about this as a recruiting funnel. What do I mean when I say that? I mean, too often we are looking at this idea of putting a whole bunch of stuff at the top of a funnel, right? You always hear like, we need more top of the funnel action. We need to get more candidates in the funnel. We need to. Okay, so couple things about that. Number one, that's not how funnels work. The stuff you put in the top of the funnel is what comes out of the bottom. So if you're telling me every candidate that goes into your funnel gets a job offer, I'm gonna call BS on that, or I'm gonna ask you where your book is because that's insanely awesome. So what are we really doing? We're more of a sieve. If you think about it, a sieve, a sifter, right? We're taking a whole bunch of stuff and trying to separate out the things we don't want so that we're left with what we do want. And if you're going, what the hell does this have to do with what we're talking about today? Give me like 3 minutes. I promise I'm going to link these things. It's going to get a little weirder before it gets less weird. So like, stick with me. I love y'all. Here we go. So when we're thinking of like this idea of sieving, right? The most common use case is for people looking for gold, where you put like soil and dirt in here and then you sieve it out, wash it, and find gold. Okay. So this is, for me, what defines the difference between top down and bottom up sourcing. Okay. What the hell's top down versus bottom up, right? So top down sourcing is to say, okay, well, let's run the most like generic search. So you're looking for software engineers, right? Okay, let me look for software engineer and location and Java and see how many people come up, and then start working my way down into like the smallest possible thing until I'm dead on. The other option, bottom up, is start with the most exact search you can find and then remove filters as you work your way back up to that huge market view. So I am making a proponent that the bottom up perspective is the best way to do this. This is going to be my sales point for this entire webinar. So here we go. Ready? So top down, bottom up. Again, starting with a wide search may have some perceived advantages, but as we go through this, I think you'll understand why it may not make the most sense. So the idea of that soil versus gold analogy, right? Let's use that for a minute. We're getting weird, right? To think about top down versus bottom up, and to think about the way that we source. Okay. So if I want to find gold in soil, one of the things I have to realize is that the surface area of the Earth is 196.9 million miles squared. That's usable surface area. We're not talking like ocean, obviously, right? Okay. How do we find that? Took the radius of the Earth, pi r squared, boom, surface area. Or it's a different equation. It's slightly different than pi r squared, but you wind up getting the entire surface area of the Earth. Okay, boom. Ready? 1/8 of the planet's surface is Earth. Okay, that's this right here. This whole thing is all Earth. Okay, so we start our search initially and we're like, oh, okay, cool. So all we have to do is sift through 196.9 million miles squared of candidates. Okay, that's great. Well, nah, not really. Like, well, let's just narrow it down, right? It's technically 1/8 of the surface planet is actually Earth, right? Soil is dirt. So, okay, well, thank God, that's only 24.6125 million miles squared of surface area. And just for clarity on that, that's 15.756 billion acres of land. Okay, I know. We're like, what the hell are you talking about right now? I'm talking about the idea of, if you're saying, I want to find gold, physically find gold, like the rare metal gold, you can start really large and look at the surface area of the Earth and then try narrowing it down based on these ideas of land versus water, and then land versus water, and then in the land section, what's like usable land, and then within that, right? And so what you're realizing is, ooh, it's a lot of area to search. I don't know if you've ever walked a couple of acres, but like 1 billion acres is a lot, right? So you're kind of doing like this thing. You're like, oh, okay, well, there's something there. Thank heavens, right? That like blind step forward where you're just kind of guessing what works and what doesn't work. Okay, so what am I proposing? How about you start with where the gold is, right? So this is where like the top 10 like gold mine locations in the world are, I can send you all the sources for this ridiculous stuff. But these are where the top 10 locations are for gold mines. So if I were looking for gold, I would probably say, hey, in the real world, right? Hey, these are the top places. So what do they have in common? What are like the things that they're maybe missing that are present everywhere else that you can come up with, right? What you'd learn in doing this research, by the way, is that the highest concentration of gold actually comes from these things called alluvial pockets, right? Which is actually where like rivers shallow out, right, into a basin. And then I may ask, okay, well, are there any other alluvial pockets that I can search in? And then, okay, maybe go a step deeper. Like what about the alluvial pockets are enabling us to find gold there? Are there any other geological structures that could enable us to find gold similarly to these pockets, right? Okay, so I'm sure that right now you're going, wowzers. I'll wait to jump there. Wowzers, this is weird. I didn't know we were talking about mineral deposits. But here's the deal. When we are sourcing through a lot of what I will call earth. So to be maybe kinder with the verbiage, right? We're searching through a lot of earth trying to find gold. Realistically, right? We want those candidates out of a huge pool of potential candidates that exist in the world. Okay, so why am I sharing this? Because I think too many of us focus oftentimes on throwing as much earth as they can into our sieve, right? In order to find gold, as opposed to starting with where the gold already sits. So let's talk about this. Yeah, so Laura, the problem with unicorns is they don't fit through a sieve. That gets really messy. So let's jump into this next topic of pre-search. That got dark with the unicorns. Sorry, I love unicorns. This is where we're really looking at intelligence gathering. So we want to look at the different types of intelligence, what they look like, why they're important to us, and how do we gather that? How do we actually accumulate that intelligence? So I've broken it down into 4 categories. And what you'll notice about these 4 categories is you've never seen them before because I made them up. And I can do that because it's my presentation. So I'm calling all of these recruitment intelligence because we've all heard, right? Market intelligence, talent intelligence. Cool. But have they ever actually been defined and differentiated for you? Because if you're like, yeah, market intelligence, talent intelligence, different things. They're actually different things. I didn't make up what the definition of those 2 things are. Those are the actual definitions when you look them up of what they are. Now, what did I make up? Internal and candidate. So internal, as you can see there, is talking more about what exists inside your org. Candidate exists more on the actual sourcing intelligence side, if you will. So I'm going to go through these. I'm going to explain a little bit about each of them, their value to us and how we find them. And then, as I mentioned, I'm going to go live and show you an actual example of how this could work and why I think it's important to do it this way versus the top-down methodology. So when we're looking at market intelligence, here are the 4 main things we're really looking at, right? I want to come to the market. Sorry, I'll move me over a little bit so that way y'all can see me instead of the presentation. Cool. Boop. Yay, it's me. I'm over here now. Okay, so what we want to look at in the market intelligence is location, competitors, similar work orgs, and also the perception of our company. So with location, what I want to look at is where do the pockets of people that I want to hire sit? Now, a thing to be mindful of for market intelligence, because if you're looking for software engineers, you're like, oh, in the US, New York City, San Francisco, LA, Boston, Chicago, DC. Nailed it. All right, done. Okay, what about for your specific organization? What about for your specific community that you live in? So whether that's industry specific, whether that's focus in the grander scheme of the world, what if it's even compensation? What if you're a company who can't compete with all the manga firms out there, which is what I've renamed FANG since it's now Meta instead of Facebook. It's manga because I love manga. Where can we compete with talent fiscally, right? So if I can't pay the same as a San Francisco software engineer, maybe I'm looking in different locations to understand the market better. Where are my competitors? What are they doing out there in the market? Where can I source from? Meaning, do I have competitors, direct competitors doing what we do in viable markets that I can pull from and source through? Something that I think gets confused with competitors is similar work organizations. Meta, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. Oh, God, no, I hate that. No, that's cool. Okay, so similar work organizations. What do I mean? You're an electric vehicle company and you're looking for a, let's call it software engineer, right? Your organization. Now, you may want to look at all the other electric vehicle companies. That's pretty logical. But what about all of the companies who specialize in computer vision? Those would probably be really relevant, right? But they're not going to be electric vehicle companies. So what are we doing to analyze what these like similar work organizations could be? So companies that might not compete with us, but do employ people doing tangential work to what we're doing. And then the last piece of market intelligence encapsulates the perception of our company. It's important to know what the world or the community or the industry thinks of your organization. I promise they're looking it up. They're going to Glassdoor, which is unfortunate, but they're going to Glassdoor. What are your reviews like? Do you know? You can't necessarily influence that when a job opens, but you can certainly know it because you know what pushback you're going to get, and you can try Eminem 8 Miling that. If you don't get that reference, in the final rap battle of 8 Mile, Eminem's entire rap is all like talking about all of his issues and flaws and character defects, so that way the other person can't dig on him. We can do that. We can call out like, hey, I know that this seems this way and this, this news article came out, but here's what's happening. And we can get ahead of it only if we know what the perception of our company actually is. Okay, so now we're on to talent intelligence. So this is all considered competitor information. Yeah, Maria, it's exactly right. It's like a dictionary for objections. So competitor information. This is now delving, a little deeper into that one section of market intelligence. And what people look for with talent intelligence is understanding how they rank compared to other people who are either direct competitors in the market or, something important to note, competitors for talent. So what do I mean? Like, what's the heck's the difference? So if we're looking at a company like Uber does ride sharing, and also they bring me my food and also other cool things like freight and things like that. So what are the competitors to Uber? Like Lyft is the top one in the US. But where do most of their software engineers go? Well, they're going to Facebook and Google and Amazon and Netflix. So there's two separate pieces here to assess. There's competitor in the market and there's competitor for talent. We want both. And I want to know, first and foremost, what are they paying their folks? How do I find that? Well, I'd probably just go into Glassdoor and I would just look it up, kind of like what you're seeing right there. Just run a search for your competitors, click on salaries, and what you can see is you can actually find salaries for specific types of roles. Super helpful just to get an idea of, again, do you have to sell against a different value proposition in your messaging? Or are you in alignment with what the rest of the market is paying? Or, best case scenario, are you ahead of the market in what you're paying? But we're not going to know that unless we actually deep dive into that talent intelligence itself. The next one is locations. So, guys, this is so super easy. Check this out. The example I'm going to use today is going to be for a policy role, which I'll share with you guys. But what you're going to see is if you go to any platform, my preference is Seek Out. I think the search capabilities are, in my opinion, the easiest for me to use, the most comprehensive. All I did was look at a company, let's assume Tesla is a competitor, and I put in the title policy and check this out. Here's all the top locations of where people sit. Now I can look here and go, all right, so San Francisco, oh, that's going to be expensive. Los Angeles is going to be expensive. Oh, Toronto's interesting. DC is actually not as expensive. That's interesting. Oh, Denver and Austin. Wow. Okay. Those may be really great pockets to look in. Awesome talent intelligence. We have a requirement to post salaries with job ads effective November 1. I love that. We should be doing that anyway, in my opinion. So totally awesome. Another great way to do that. I believe, and Paul, you can totally correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if that's national yet or if that's still state by state. You would know obviously better than I would. So feel free, please add that to the chat here on YouTube. Next one, same exact capability. Ready? You just look at the current company, current title, and boom, here's where all these people went to school. BC and Canada, yeah. I know I think like Colorado, New York, California, it's required. So again, same exact thing, right? Title, company, scroll down, where? Okay, guys, that's a huge number of people from one university, comparatively, percentage-wise. I'd probably want to source for people coming out of that school. Love that, Dessa. Next is past organizations, same exact thing. You run your search, you look at past companies, and you go, oh, wow, holy smokes. Okay, first stop, I want to start trying to find folks from Solar City. So I'm just notating all of this. I'm writing all of this down, typically in my pre-search sheet, which I can share with everybody. But in that sheet, I'm taking note of each of these points of, hey, I want to make sure that I try sourcing through this company. Hey, I want to try making sure I focus on this particular geography. And hey, I want to try making sure that I look for people who specifically came out of these universities. These are the areas that we can flex into. And what do I mean by we can flex into? Sorry, the last thing is the commonalities. Same exact thing. So when I say flex into, I mean, we're going to start searching really tight for the job, right? And then we're going to slowly remove the strongest pluses for the role. And we're going to be left with just the core requirements, must-have skills. At that point, I could flex in some areas where maybe the implied skill set would be there. So I can imply, even if it doesn't say, in this case, like electric vehicle on their profile anywhere. Oops, sorry. If it doesn't say electric vehicle, but they worked at this company, I'm assuming they have that experience. So now all of a sudden we're finding ways to flex the perceived must-haves on a profile. And we'll get into that a little bit once we start going through the search that I have proposed for all of us. Can I make my presentation screen larger? Yes, I can. If Matcher would like to jump in, we can go back to doing it the other way also, where you make my presentation screen. I am full screen. The previous company is a clip, not an entire thing. Yeah. Okay. Matcher, if y'all want to jump in here and separate my camera from my screen share, I can do that really quick. Guys, give me 2 seconds. I was trying to be super cool with it, but that's all right. We'll just switch it around and do it this way. Present. Boom, boom, this. And we'll do this. Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Matcher. You guys are really fantastic as always. Hopefully you guys can all see that. Let me know if that's any better. And if not, then it's blurry and I'll apologize and give you a high five and a hug later. How much time am I spending on research at the beginning of a search? More time than I am on the search. Again, I want to work smarter, not harder. Is there a back out or alternative to seek out? You can use, so yes, it's going to be a little bit more work. You can use something like LinkedIn, or if you have another sourcing platform, they'll provide this data. You'll have to go and notate it for some of the profiles. So you're not going to maybe look at every single profile, if 100 come back. But maybe you take 10 or 20 and you take the time to go through and just jot them down, right? If you don't work with 2 monitors, I'll pray for you. I don't know how you do that. But 2 monitors makes it pretty efficient. So, okay. So now we've gathered all of this data. And again, sorry, XM, I don't have your name. I'm just going by XM on this. In the beginning, I want to spend so much time researching that I have to look at minimal amounts of profiles. It's the most efficient use of time. If you run a search for 400 profiles, you can spend a day and a half just running through 400 profiles. I would way rather take an extra 2 hours to do research and only have to look at 80 profiles. It's going to wind up saving you time in the long run. Great. I'll take a quick pause, see if we have any questions here. I don't know that we do, so I'm going to keep going. My YouTube and LinkedIn fans and crew, what up? Let's do this. All right. The third one we have here is that internal intelligence piece. So the three areas I want to, yes, wait. All right. Yeah, no problem. I will, I'll take another breather. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Can you use power filters in People Insights? Yes. You're going to see that, actually. So don't you worry. Okay. All right. No more questions. Let's keep going. So when I'm looking internally, I'm literally looking at the candidates or the employees who currently work at my company in that role. And what I want to look for is, hey, what do my top employees have in common? And also, what do the unsuccessful hires have in common? Folks who've left before a year or folks who had to leave due to performance issues. What do they have in common with each other? And I want to use the exact same info that I just gathered up here, right? Boom. These 5 things, I want to use those for these 2 areas. The third thing I want to gather are shared team characteristics. Meaning, I want to look at the team, manager and coworkers, and say, cool, where did they work before this? What school did they go to? What interests do they have? Maybe even asking them, hey, what do you guys like do for fun? Because you can search for that stuff. And not like one-off, go to every Facebook page. Like you can literally just look for like groups that people are in. On the Blue Devil, you can look for interests, certifications, etc. And so the stuff that I'm talking about now, I literally do before I run a search. So I haven't even like compiled an actual search yet. I'm gathering all of this data so that I can then run my search succinctly and successfully. So it sounds like a lot, but if we're going through this, it's not as much as you think. Everything that I've covered so far would take less than maybe 45 minutes or an hour to do. What do you do if the team is majorly dysfunctional? Cry and pray? No. I think, I don't know if first name's Desta or Graham, and I apologize for that. So I'm going to call you DG. It'll be easier. So if the team's majorly dysfunctional, the hiring has to somehow solve that, right? Like, or be working towards that. No team is going to be like, hey, we're totally dysfunctional, so can you find somebody who's like a little dysfunctional to join us, right? They're generally hiring to try and smooth out those rough edges. And so the question then I would want to ask in my intake call is, hey, what's going to be the I hate this phrase, but like, what's going to be the culture ad here? Thanks, Desta. What's the culture ad? What are the characteristics that this person has that your team doesn't have? And ask, because here's the deal. If the manager doesn't know and they're like, what do you mean? No, our team's great. Best of luck to you. I'll pray for you. But most people are aware enough to know like they have gaps. And that's another great thing. That could be the missing shared team characteristics. I would still lump it under this area. Cool. Last, candidate intelligence. This is where I spend the majority of my time. This is where you get a bunch of actual real-time shareable data with a hiring manager. So everything before this, all of this, everything you're seeing here, totally awesome. You can share this with your hiring manager and they're going to be like, whoa, you've really done your research. They're going to feel really confident when you share a candidate with them. This is where you're actually able to share like the candidates themselves. I'm sure that we have all heard from a hiring manager at some point, no, those people are out there. You can find them. And it's like, well, no, I've run the searches. They're not there. And then you go into this weird, like butting heads back and forth where you're both just saying, you're kind of speaking out of your butts because none of you are coming to the table and saying, hey, here's what I looked for. Here's what's out there. Here's what's not. This is where I gather that data. And I can come and say, hey, all those pluses that you want, completely unreasonable. It's not going to happen. Here's the data. Let me show you why. Of those pluses, here's the thing that's blocking you in your path. and being able to then have real tangible conversations about the layering of prioritization, not based on just their wish list. Because if I had that and I was looking for a plumber, I would probably rank number one, like, hey, I want them to have some type of like aeronautical or, aquamarine based degree from college. And it's like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm like, why? That seems to make sense, right? Or civil engineering, because that way they'll know how everything works. But like, that's not generally in that field what people are coming out of school with. So it's a difference between your wish list prioritization and market level prioritization or candidate intelligence. So research. So we have pre-search, what you do before the search, and then you've got your search that actually generates you the research and the data. So this is actually, I'm actually sourcing at this point now. This is not a like hypothetical, let's just do some more research for research. This is, I'm going to functionally source with the intent of both gathering data and finding candidates. Maria, and they expect it to be instant. And oftentimes, I know I've heard this a ton, is you present like one or maybe even two really great candidates. They love them and go, cool, I'd like to see a couple more. And why do they say that? Because they don't know what you're doing behind the scenes. The assumption typically is that you posted a job, people applied, you spoke to them, and boom, here they are. When you have the data to support what you're doing, which is why I spend all this time up front, you're now able to have deeper and more meaningful conversations with the hiring manager who doesn't understand really what we're doing. So for this research, I figured, you know what? Instead of me continuing to talk through slides, which if you've seen my presentations before, you know I'm not the most giant fan of, let's do it live. Let's show you some stuff. So first, I'm going to put in the comments, and I'm going to put in the YouTube chat the link to the pre-search sheet. So that way y'all can access this as well. Boom, nailed it. Let's do this. Awesome. Okay, so here we go. So this is my pre-search sheet. This is an actual search that my team and I had to run. This is not like I didn't make this up to be silly. So this is the intake form. These are the answers, and I'll separate it with a line to make it super clear here. These are the notes we took from the intake call. Okay, check this out. Are you ready? Director of Policy and Market Development. This is an electric vehicle company. It's remote, but it has to sit in one of these states. We clarified here. Also, they have to have 10 years. They were willing to flex down on it a little bit, but realistically, like they need to have more seniority than just 3 to 5 years. The must-have skills. Check this out. Are you ready for this? Federal and regional policy development. So they need to do that at a federal and a local level. They need to be a diversity candidate. They wanted Black or Hispanic candidates only. They need to specifically have worked on policy and regulatory initiatives for underserved communities. And they had to be in the sustainable, renewable regulatory space. Also, they'd like this person to speak French. Also, they have to have a degree in something relative to this. They could be flexible, but the preference is that they also have a master's degree. Okay, just wait. And the hiring manager doesn't like to poach from competitors. So, Paul, the link is for the blank pre-search sheet. This is just my filled in one for this particular role. Yes. So if you're looking at this going, what? We did the same thing. We're like, oh, cool. And they threw in French like it was no big deal. Like, oh, yeah. And then we want them to speak French. Like, yeah, sure. I know a ton of DEI candidates in the federal and local regulatory space serving underserved communities, specifically in renewable and sustainable energies in these specific states. Sure. So we did our research, right? I put some of our research in here. I didn't want to put all of it in, but here's a bunch of the competitors we looked up. Here's the benchmark candidate that they gave us. So that way we could actually look at them and say, hey, here are the things they have. I think, Maria, if we're going to serve fries with that, these are going to be like truffle Parmesan fries with a garlic aioli. So, okay, great. Policy background. Awesome. Cool. Went to Georgetown, got the master's in public. Okay. And went to UC Berkeley. Like, wowzers. Okay. This is pretty awesome. Not seeing the link, wayne.te.ch/presearch. There's a link. Boom. Put it in the chat again. Yeah. So yeah, that criteria did seem unreasonable, right? Here's the thing though. Right now, we're assuming that. We don't actually know and say for sure, like, hey, you're being wildly unreasonable. Now, we can assume based on all of that craziness, they're being wildly unreasonable. But here's the deal. Let's search for it. So what do? I ran a search. And I'm not going to bore you with the how I put the search together. That's a entirely separate training. At Matcher, the link from Mike isn't showing in the chat. Did you see the one that said wayne.te.ch/presearch? That's the one. http://wayne.te.ch/presearch. I put it in there that's real weird. I put it in the chat. Sorry, guys. I will here. Ready for this? Check this out. Watch this. This is gonna be awesome. We're just gonna do this live. Ready? Let's do wayne.te.ch/presearch. Okay, y'all got that? Boom. wayne.te.ch/presearch. If someone else can type it and put it in the chat, that'd be super helpful. Thank you. Okay. So let me explain what I'm searching for here. This is my, hey, I am going to search for any and everything this hiring manager wants, so that way I can validate that this is ridiculous. Here we go. Major or degree is in that policy or renewable energy or environmental science, political science, right? If not the major, the degree. Fine. Current title has to have policy or policies and or market and development, which we wound up realizing also not the greatest, but like fine. Here we go. Locations, straightforward. Okay. Current title can't be police education candidate or student. We found that out from running just the first search and going, whoa, there's a lot of weird people in here. Let's get those out of here. Can't be coming from being a police officer in the past either. Okay, they have to be at a manager, director, principal, or consulting level. They can't be a VP and they can't just be like senior policy analyst. So if they were currently doing that or previously doing that, awesome. In the position's description or the summary or their current title or their past title or their industry, it has to say energy or renewable, renewables, etc., or environmental. Just one of those three words has to appear in one of these 6 categories here. Okay. If it doesn't, they have to currently work at or previously worked at one of these companies, which were the competitors list that the manager didn't give us as his opinion of their competitors. Okay. Also, 7+ years of experience, Black or Hispanic DEI, degree in master's degree, and I also did the language as French. So, here we go. How many people do we think came back when we ran this search? If your answer is 0 people came back, you're right. That is too specific. So I can say, okay, so this manager's want list, their desire, not going to happen. So if we remember here, the request was, hey, I would love to have French and I would love to have a graduate degree, so a master's degree. Well, with those put in there and the requirements, person doesn't exist. So here is where the bottom-up approach is super effective. Thanks, Matcher. I appreciate you tons. Here's where the bottom-up is super helpful. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, what do I think of the pluses are holding this search up? My very first thought is like the French piece, right? Like that is insane. Let me remove French from this. And I just want to see how many people come back now. So I remove French and voila. Oh, 1. So here's what I'm doing. Coming over here. I'm going to come into this sheet and just go all the way up top. French, 1. Okay, well, That's not super great. I mean, awesome. Let me take a look and maybe put this person into a project. So I'll go Matcher, webinar, policy folks. Cool. And then here's the thing. I'm going to put that back on. So now French is clicked again because I know it really only eliminated one person. Okay. I wonder if it's the master's degree. Nope, no candidate still. Okay, so the master's degree, fine. I'm going to put the master's degree back on. And now the other plus that they had was specifically the majors or degrees. They said it would be awesome if they were here, but they can be a little flexible on that. So maybe I try removing one of those from the search. Okay, cool. So let's come over here and remove the specific majors from up top and see what that does here. Well, let's just get rid of these. Hit enter. Okay, so now the majors didn't really clear that up either, but okay, fine. Let's add these folks into the project. Love that. And then I'm coming back over here and going majors 2. Okay, now these are the pluses. I've eliminated all of the pluses one at a time. Okay. So now I want to try doing them in maybe some combination and see what happens. So now I want to experiment and try pulling out the master's degree and French. Oh, look, one candidate still. So that didn't do it. All right, great. Now let's try pulling out the master's degree and French. And let's pull out this area. Okay. Interesting to know. So let me add these in. Let me add them in here. And then I want to go. So masters, majors, French returns 5 people. Okay. So now I'm acquiring data. That's all I'm doing right now. Also, obviously, adding people into a project. So now I'm left with their must-haves and going through and saying, okay, which of these things, besides DEI, because that was an absolute must-have, we cannot get rid of that, period, end of story. Which of these things can we get rid of to say, okay, let's see what else could come up so we can report back and say, hey, here's what we found. Here's the breakdown of where your pluses and where your must-haves are holding us up. Okay, great. Here we go. Let's remove maybe the level of the role, that manager, director level. Okay, great. Run the search. That only brings back 6 people. So you've got these and manager. 6. Okay, more data. Let's go back. Let's try eliminating something else from this list. So I'm going to say if they currently work at these companies or past companies or the industries or position descriptions are energy, renewable, or environmental, maybe I want to add into this EV or electric vehicle or green. So let's try adding that into each of these sections now. And so again, what I want to accomplish is saying, hey, here's what I started with, which is exactly what you want, Mr. and Mrs. Hiring Manager. And then now, if I change it to this thing and open it up a little bit, just a little bit more flexible, here's what I wind up getting. The same number of people. That's amazing. So let's do some people insights here. Once we remove let's figure out renewable energies. Let's take out all of the EV pieces first. Run search. Only 59 candidates, ready for this, have policy or policies or market development in their title in one of those states who are also DEI. So let me repeat that real quick. 59 candidates simply have these titles in these states. That's it. who are DEI candidates. Now, could we open up the years of experience? I'll give you a yes, you could. I'll give you a clue. That's not really going to change a whole bunch here. Okay. Okay. So now all I'm doing is jotting down again just policy titles, states, and DEI returns 59 candidates. So at this point is where we went back to the hiring manager and said, hey, your totable addressable market based on this is 59 people, like in all of those states. So what could we do? Well, we said, what if their title was previously one of these policy manager type of titles? Okay, well, let's see if that changes anything. And he said, like, yeah, I would be willing to take a look if that was how that lined up. Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry. Whoa. Okay. So what we're seeing is that people used to have that title, but currently don't have that title anymore. So here we go. Let's go to those insights real quick and just see, well, what are their current titles now? Maybe? No. Maybe if they'd had some managerial or director level experience. Probably not, definitely not. Oh, senior advisor. So maybe advisor is something that we could put in there in case they don't have the word policy. Okay, director of policy, policy administrator. So what I'm gathering from this here is, let's add in a couple of parameters here. So current title, one of those. And let's add in advisor, right? And all I'm doing is just looking at the data and saying, okay, here's what I can change. It's all I'm capable of doing. Or advisor. Love that. Oh, heck yeah. And let's go with the current title is policy, or past titles were policy. So that way we know they've got it somewhere, even if they have the analysis title. Or in their summary, they talk about policies. Ooh, faster than the internet. Or policies. That should work. Great. When I have my own Batman sitting next to me when I'm doing a search. Thanks, Paul. Okay, so now we still have 315 candidates. Whoa, okay. What are we looking at here? Still have some folks I don't really want showing up. So now I'm eliminating these folks. And all I'm doing every time I run a search, I just want to add those candidates into a separate, you ready for this? Separate project. The second I flex on required skills, I want you to hear this. The second I flex on required skills. So now I found a viable search. I'm going to add these candidates into a separate project. Why? Because this is a project where I have to explain to the hiring manager that here's how I had to flex on what you told me. Here's why these candidates may not appear on paper to be 100% accurate for what you said you wanted. And here's the data to support why I had to do that. Is there a similar tool like Seekout, but for companies instead of candidates? Prefer to not give any money to LinkedIn. When you say for companies, not candidates, Jordan, can you be a little more specific? So is it, you mean like being able to search just for like companies themselves? Based on, you know, whether it's funding or this or that, having nothing to do with like a candidate or a title who works there? Because that's going to be definitely a different type of tool. Let me know in the chat and I'll come back to that one for sure. Yes, there is. Happy to talk with you. Just ping me offline and I can share some of my thoughts and opinions on that one. just add French in. Right. You're totally right. So we had to tell them, hey, that's out. That's not happening, right? To your point, if I come down here and then I go to languages and I see like French, 36 people. Cool. But then I still have to come up here and look at these. And so president, no. Business development, no. Co-founder, no. Professor, no. Member, no. Writer, no. Fellow, no. So I then have to go through and eliminate the titles. And again, I'm keeping track of my data. This is my candidate intelligence. This is how I make a case for what I'm working on, how efficient and effective I'm working on it, and how I can have a data-driven conversation with a hiring manager and my executives or my manager directly about what is or isn't actually effective, not theoretically effective. And then we can work together as a team like we did on this role. So for this role, we normally deliver, so Wayne Tech, we normally deliver 200 candidates for a position with contact info and everything, and we do outreach on that. For this role in particular, you ready for this? We delivered 37 candidates, if I recall correctly. We delivered 37. And from that, I'm literally pulling up the data because I actually want to tell you this. Ready? So director of policy, we delivered 38 candidates. We messaged them and got a 44.74% response rate. That's 17 candidate responses. 7 of them were interested in the job, and they made an offer and hired on that position. So how many profiles did we have to look at to do that? Statistics, actual numbers here. We looked at 192 profiles total. Now, do we spend a whole bunch of time doing what we're doing right now? Yeah. Did we have to look at 2,000 profiles to find these folks? We did not. And because we were so focused on it and data-driven, we knew that we were getting the right people. So when we wrote our messaging, we had such that high response rate and high interest rate. That is why this works. Finding those, as we come back here, finding those bottlenecks. We're running our searches for data so that we can find where the bottlenecks of the search are based on what the hiring manager is looking for and based on what the actual market can bear. So here's the walkthrough, because again, I'm going to share my slides. And boom, here we go. Add each variation to its own project. So this is the exact steps that I just took. Same way you have it here. And guys, thank you so much. I'd really, again, like to thank Adrian and the Matcher crew for always being so supportive and just awesome people. If you guys need sourcing support on a service or demand level or training in the world of sourcing or recruiting, please contact me. I'm open to taking new clients at this time. If you want to connect, that top link, waynete.ch/Mike Cohen, is all of my data, like any and everything you could possibly want to know on any social site, phone number, etc. Feel free to please reach out. Ping me, let me know whatever it is that I can do to help. That bottom link are the slides as they appear here. Go over.
To go over. Hey, Mike.
Yes.
It's a wrap on the clock. This is unbelievable.
I was actually, my last point with no questions was going to be, hey, I want everybody who follows me to mark down the date, the time, and the link to this video as proof that I can do a webinar or presentation inside my allotted time limit. There's a first for everything. And guys, right now, it's March 9th, 2023. It is noon Central Time, and I have finished a presentation in my 1 hour allotted time limit. Mwah.
And you created and shared tremendous value. Honestly, you caught me and multiple people in the chat with the sieve, and it just spoke so well in terms of that's what we're doing, the sieve. I'm going to use that from now on, the sieve. That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm aware that time is up basically. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to Mike directly on either LinkedIn or any of the links that he shared. We are going to share the recording of this webinar as well, and we'll send some of the links as well in the follow-up email. So our head of marketing, Andrew, will make sure that that you also have the links in those emails. Guys, can I please give it up for Mike? It was such a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
Mike, we will speak very, very soon again.
I'm sure we will. Thank you.
Yes. All right, guys. That was Mike. And I would love to get you guys excited as well for next week's webinar, because next week we have our own head of sourcing at Matcher, who will be talking about how to build sourcing teams and how to lead them, and what KPIs do you set and what data do you track, and what it's like to build out a sourcing team from scratch. Even if you're not a manager, there will be plenty of learnings in there for like, what does a sourcing career look like versus, hey, how can I grow in my own sourcing career? And Dima has tremendous amount of sourcing experience himself. So he's going to share his honest feedback of what went well and what didn't go so well. So definitely stay tuned for next week's episodes. And please follow us on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date of the latest information that's going around with Matcher. And I hope to see all of you again next week. Thank you so much for joining.